The Galactic Council chamber floated in the cold darkness of space, a massive structure built from materials that could survive the death of stars. Inside its gleaming halls, beings from across the galaxy gathered to discuss the latest problem in their perfect universe. Ambassador Velthar stood at the center of the great circular room. His body was made of living crystal that sparkled with different colors as he spoke. He had ruled over hundreds of worlds for thousands of years, and he had never met a species that dared to refuse the Council's demands. The primitives on the third planet of the Sol system continued to reject our reasonable requests, Velthar announced to the assembled aliens. His voice rang like bells through the chamber. They refused to pay the standard taxes that all civilized worlds must pay. They refused to hand over their mineral rights. Most insulting of all, they refused to acknowledge our authority over their pathetic little world. High Admiral Kexmore stepped forward from the shadows. He was a creature of scales and claws, standing nearly 3 meters tall. His species, the Void Hunters, had conquered more worlds than any other race in the galaxy. War was their art, and they had perfected it over millions of years. These humans are nothing more than angry children, Kexmore growled, his voice like grinding stone. My scouts report that their most advanced ships are powered by controlled explosions. They still use projectile weapons. They fight wars with each other over resources instead of simply taking what they need from weaker species. They are barely out of their caves. Counselor Zethira floated near the ceiling, her translucent form pulsing with soft light. Her people, the Neural Collective, shared thoughts across their entire species. They had evolved beyond physical conflict, eons ago preferring to simply dominate other minds when disagreement arose. I have touched the edges of their primitive thoughts, Zethira whispered, her voice echoing directly in the minds of all present. They think in simple patterns. Violence and emotion guide their decisions. They lack the mental discipline for true civilization. Their minds are chaotic, filled with pointless dreams and individual desires. The other council members murmured agreement. In their thousands of years of galactic rule, they had encountered many species. Some had resisted initially, but all had eventually seen reason. The galaxy had rules, and those rules existed for good reasons. Resources belonged to those wise enough to use them properly. Technology should be shared with those responsible enough to handle it. Peace came through proper order and hierarchy. Earth simply needed to learn its place. On Earth, Admiral Park Jiho stood in the command center deep beneath the mountains of South Korea. The facility had been built during the worst days of the nuclear winter, when humanity thought they might destroy themselves before they ever reached the stars. Now it served as the headquarters for Earth's defense against a threat they had always known would come. Park was a small man with gray hair and calm eyes that had seen too much war. He had fought in the Water Wars, the Lunar Rebellion, and the Kokem Mars colonial conflicts. He understood that peace was something you had to fight for and keep fighting for every single day. Sir, we're receiving another transmission from the alien fleet, reported Lieutenant Kim Minji, Earth's top expert on alien languages. She was young but brilliant, having learned to decode the Council's communications in just 3 months. They're demanding immediate surrender and complete submission to something called the Galactic Tax Authority. Park smiled without humor. What's their fleet strength, Lieutenant? 50 ships, sir. Each one about twice the size of our largest battlecruiser. Their technology appears to be several hundred years ahead of ours in most areas. Captain Lee Dongyun entered the command center, still wearing his combat armor from the training exercises. He was Park's top special operations commander, a man who had earned his reputation in the tunnels beneath Mars City during the rebellion. His specialty was making impossible missions succeed through sheer stubbornness and creative thinking. Admiral, the fleet is ready, Donghyun reported. All ships are loaded, and crews are at battle stations. The civilian population has been moved to the underground shelters. Park nodded and looked at the tactical display showing the approaching alien fleet. 50 ships against Earth's entire defense force of nearly 200 vessels. On paper, it looked like a hopeless fight. But humans had never been very good at accepting what looked impossible on paper. Dr. Kim Minji, send this message to the alien fleet, Park ordered. Use their own language so there's no confusion. Minji prepared her equipment and waited. You have 24 hours to leave our system, Park said slowly, each word measured and clear. This is your only warning. If you do not leave, we will defend our world with everything we have. We do not surrender. We do not submit. We fight. The message was transmitted across space to the alien fleet. In the Council fleet, Sub-Admiral Thecklin received the transmission and burst into laughter. He was a proud member of the Conquest caste, bred for war and victory. His species had never lost a battle in their recorded history. Did these primitives just threaten us? He asked his bridge crew, all of whom joined in his amusement. Send them our standard response. Tell them they have 1 hour to surrender completely, or we will demonstrate the power of civilized warfare. But something in the human message bothered him. It wasn't the content. Many primitive species made brave speeches before inevitable surrender. It was the tone. There had been no fear in the human's voice, no desperate bravado, just a simple statement of fact, as if the human was explaining that gravity makes things fall down. Back on Earth, Park received the alien response and gathered his senior staff. They're giving us 1 hour to surrender, he announced. After that, they plan to demonstrate their superior firepower by destroying a few of our cities. Sir? Asked Colonel Yu Sun-ho, Earth's best fighter pilot. What are our orders? Park looked around the room at the faces of his commanders. These were people who had spent their entire lives preparing for this moment. Humanity had always known that when they finally met other intelligent life, there was a good chance those aliens would not come in peace. Every human military doctrine, every weapon system, every tactical manual had been written with one assumption. Someday, humanity would face an enemy with better technology and superior numbers. The question was not whether humans could match alien capabilities in a fair fight. The question was whether humans could make the fight unfair enough to win anyway. Orders are simple, Park said quietly. We show them what humans do to anyone who threatens our home. No mercy, no quarter, no survivors. When word of this battle reaches the rest of the galaxy, I want every alien species to understand one thing clearly. Earth is not just defended by humans. Earth is defended by the most dangerous predators this galaxy has ever seen. The countdown began. In space, the alien fleet moved into standard battle formation, confident in their overwhelming advantage. They had fought primitive species before. It was always the same pattern. A brief show of force, shocked surrender, and then peaceful integration into the galactic order. But as the final minutes ticked away, something felt different. Long-range sensors detected movement from Earth's fleet, but the ships weren't forming up for traditional battle. Instead, they seemed to be scattering, disappearing into the asteroid fields and orbital debris around Earth's system. Curious, muttered Sub-Admiral Thecklin. They appeared to be retreating before the battle even begins. Perhaps they recognized the futility of resistance. He was about to learn that humans had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of making the impossible look easy. And the one thing humans had always been better at than any other species was finding new and creative ways to kill things that needed killing. The war for Earth's independence was about to begin, and the galaxy was about to meet its new apex predators. The news of the Council fleet's defeat spread across the galaxy like wildfire. In the great capital worlds, alien leaders who had ruled for thousands of years sat in emergency meetings, trying to understand what had just happened. A primitive world had not only refused to surrender to the Galactic Council, but had actually destroyed most of their peacekeeping force. Ambassador Velthar's crystal body flickered with angry red light as he addressed the emergency session. This cannot stand, he declared, his voice ringing through the chamber like breaking glass. If we allow one primitive world to defy us, every backwater planet in the galaxy will think they can do the same. Order must be restored. High Admiral. Kexmore stood before a massive tactical display showing the positions of Council fleets throughout the galaxy. I am mobilizing 500 ships, he announced. The entire 4th Battle Fleet will move to the Sol system. We will turn their planet into a warning that will echo across space for 1,000,000 years. But Admiral Park Ji-ho had no intention of waiting for the next attack. In the depths of Earth's command center, He gathered his senior staff around a holographic map of nearby star systems. The room was filled with Earth's best military minds, people who had spent their entire careers preparing for exactly this kind of war. "Gentlemen and ladies," Park began, "we have perhaps 6 months before the Council sends a fleet large enough to overwhelm our defenses. In that time, we need to change the rules of this conflict." General Kim Tae-hyung leaned forward. He was a bear of a man, covered in scars from the ground campaigns on Mars. His specialty was taking heavily defended positions through sheer aggression and superior firepower. "What did you have in mind, Admiral?" "We stopped playing defense," Park replied. "The Council expects us to sit here and wait for them to come back with bigger guns. Instead, we're going to hunt them down and kill them in their own territory." Captain Choi Yuna, Earth's top intelligence officer, smiled coldly. She had spent years studying alien psychology and military doctrine, looking for weaknesses that human forces could exploit. "The Council has never faced an enemy that brought the war to their worlds. Their defenses are designed to repel invasion, not to stop raiders and saboteurs." Park nodded. "Exactly. We're going to use the FTL drives we captured from their ships. We're going to hit their supply lines, their shipyards, their military bases. We're going to make them understand that threatening Earth was the worst mistake their species ever made." Major Park Hyun-woo, Earth's demolitions expert, was already studying the alien technology they had captured. "Sir, these alien ships are marvels of engineering, but they have one major weakness. They're built for space combat, not for the kind of close-quarters fighting that humans specialize in." "Explain," Park ordered. "Their ships are designed around the assumption that boarding actions don't happen in civilized warfare," Hyun-woo continued. "Their internal defenses are minimal. If we can get teams aboard their vessels, we can take them from the inside." Dr. Kim Min-ji looked up from her translation work. "Admiral, I've been analyzing the alien communications we intercepted. They're genuinely terrified of our tactics. They keep referring to our combat methods as unthinkable and beyond the bounds of civilized conflict." "Good," Park said. "Terror is a weapon, and we're going to use every weapon we have." The first human strike force launched 3 weeks later. 12 ships, all equipped with captured alien FTL drives and crewed by volunteers who understood they were probably not coming home. Their target was a Council supply depot in the Beta Centauri system, a facility that supported dozens of alien military bases. Captain Lee Dong-hyun commanded the strike force from his new ship, a hybrid of human engineering and alien technology that looked like nothing else in the galaxy. His crew had trained for months on captured alien equipment, learning to use their enemy's own tools against them. "Remember," he told his teams as they approached the target, "we're not here to capture territory. We're here to send a message. Everything that can burn, burns. Everything that can explode, explodes. Leave nothing useful behind." The alien supply depot was defended by 6 patrol ships and a network of automated defense platforms. It should have been more than enough to stop any reasonable attack. But nothing about human warfare was reasonable. Dong-hyun's ships didn't announce themselves with formal challenges or demands for surrender. They simply appeared out of hyperspace and began killing everything they could see. Human weapons, crude by alien standards, turned out to be devastatingly effective against shields designed to stop energy beams and guided missiles. The humans fired solid metal rods accelerated to impossible speeds. They used nuclear weapons as tactical tools rather than strategic ones. Most shocking of all, they targeted civilian infrastructure alongside military assets, making no distinction between combatants and support personnel. Sergeant Lim Ji-won led the boarding teams that captured the depot's main facility. Her squad moved through the alien corridors like ghosts, using captured alien weapons and their own brutal hand-to-hand combat skills. The aliens had never developed effective close quarters fighting techniques because civilized species didn't board each other's ships. "Clear the command center," Ji-won ordered her team as they moved through the station. "Remember, no prisoners. They chose this fight." The alien defenders were completely unprepared for the ferocity of human infantry combat. They had weapons and armor, but they had never faced enemies who treated every battle as a fight to the death. Human soldiers moved with a speed and aggression that seemed impossible. Using every dirty trick and underhanded tactic their species had developed over millennia of warfare. Within 4 hours, the entire supply depot was under human control. Dongyun's teams downloaded every piece of data they could find, stripped the facility of useful technology, and then destroyed what remained. But the real shock came with the human withdrawal. Instead of trying to hold the depot, they simply left, disappearing back into hyperspace as quickly as they had arrived. The aliens who responded to the distress calls found nothing but wreckage and a message painted on the station's hull in burning letters. Earth remembers. The attack sent shockwaves through the council. For the first time in their recorded history, a primitive species had struck at the heart of their territory and escaped without consequences. Commander Oh Seung-jae led the second human strike force against a council research facility in the Vega system. His target was a weapons development lab where the aliens created their most advanced military technology. The attack followed the same pattern: sudden arrival, overwhelming violence, complete destruction, and rapid withdrawal. But this time, the humans added a new element to their strategy. They took prisoners. Dr. Lee Yunbi, Earth's top military strategist, had realized that information was just as valuable as destroyed ships. The alien scientists and engineers captured at the Vega facility provided Earth with detailed intelligence about Council military capabilities, political structures, and most importantly, the locations of other high-value targets. The aliens are completely unprepared for asymmetric warfare, Dr. Lee reported to Admiral Park after analyzing the intelligence. They've been fighting the same way for so long that they can't adapt to new tactics. Every species in the Council uses identical military doctrines. Major Kang Junho took this information and developed Earth's psychological warfare program. He began broadcasting human music, literature, and entertainment across Council communication networks. To human ears, the content was inspiring. To alien minds, it was a glimpse into the psychology of a species that celebrated violence, glorified individual sacrifice, and treated death as a heroic choice rather than a tragedy to be avoided. The aliens began to fear humans not just as warriors, but as a fundamentally different kind of life form. Stories spread through Council space about the Death Seekers from the Sol system, creatures that fought with suicidal fury and seemed to enjoy the act of killing. Fleet Admiral Song Dae-ho commanded the largest human strike force yet assembled. 30 ships equipped with the best combination of human weapons and alien technology. His target was the Council's main military shipyard in the Rigel system, a facility that produced a quarter of their fleet. The attack was perfectly coordinated. Human ships appeared simultaneously throughout the Rigel system, hitting 17 different targets at once. They used the aliens' own FTL communication networks against them, jamming their calls for help while broadcasting human war songs across every frequency. The shipyard's defenders fought bravely, but they were not prepared for the human approach to warfare, where aliens used precise calculated attacks designed to achieve specific military objectives. Humans used overwhelming violence designed to terrify their enemies into submission. Song's flagship, a captured alien dreadnought modified with human weapons, led the assault on the main construction facility. The ship's hull was painted with images from Earth's history: ancient warriors, modern soldiers, and the flags of every nation that had ever existed on humanity's homeworld. "This is for threatening our families," Song broadcast as his ship's weapons tore through the alien shipyard. "This is for thinking we would surrender without a fight. This is for believing that humans are weak." When the attack was over, the Rigel shipyard was gone. The Council emergency session had been going for 12 hours without a break. Representatives from across the galaxy sat in their floating chairs, watching tactical displays that showed the impossible truth. Humans were winning. In just 3 months, Earth's forces had destroyed 17 military installations, captured 8 alien ships, and eliminated thousands of Council personnel. But the numbers didn't tell the real story. The real story was in the faces of the alien survivors, creatures who had seen their perfect understanding of warfare shattered by an enemy that refused to follow any rules. High Admiral Kexmore stood before the assembled council, his proud bearing replaced by something approaching desperation. "They don't fight like any species we've ever encountered," he reported. "They target civilian infrastructure. They use their own ships as weapons. They sacrifice expensive equipment for minimal tactical gains. Most disturbing of all, they seem to enjoy it." Counselor Zithira's form flickered with unstable light. The telepathic being had attempted to make mental contact with captured human soldiers, hoping to understand their psychology. The experience had left her damaged in ways that her species' healers couldn't repair. "I touched the mind of one of their warriors," she whispered, her mental voice carrying overtones of horror. His thoughts were filled with songs about death and glory. He had memorized the names of every human who had died fighting for their world. He considered his own death a gift he could give to his species' future. They are not sane by any galactic standard. Ambassador Velthar's crystal body had lost its usual perfect shine. Stress fractures ran through his form, evidence of the pressure he was under to find a solution to the human problem. "We must escalate," he declared. "If conventional tactics cannot defeat them, we must use unconventional methods." "What do you propose?" asked Chancellor Morden, the ancient leader whose species had founded the Council millions of years ago. "Planetary bombardment," Velthar replied. "We turn their world into glass from orbit. No ground combat, no ship-to-ship battles. Simple, clean destruction." But Admiral Park had anticipated this strategy. Dr. Kim Minji worked around the clock in her laboratory, surrounded by captured alien technology and decades of human innovation. She had been studying the Council's military doctrine, and she had found its greatest weakness: predictability. "Admiral," she reported during the daily briefing, "the aliens always escalate in the same pattern. First, they send a small force, then a larger fleet, then orbital bombardment platforms. They're going to try to destroy Earth from space." "Let them come," Park replied. "We'll be ready." Captain Lee Donghyun had survived his fighter crash and now commanded Earth's most elite unit, the Deep Strike Teams. These were soldiers trained to operate behind enemy lines for months at a time, using captured alien equipment to blend in with Council forces. "Sir, my teams are already in position," Donghyun reported. "We've infiltrated the construction yards where they're building their bombardment platforms. On your word, we can cripple their production capacity." But Park had bigger plans. Colonel Yu Sunho had been promoted to command Earth's new fighter squadrons, ships built using a combination of human engineering and alien technology. They were faster than anything the Council had ever seen, and they were piloted by humans who had trained their entire lives for exactly this kind of combat. "We're not going to wait for them to attack Earth again," Park announced to his command staff. "We're going to take the war to them. Every Council world that has supported military action against Earth is now a legitimate target." General Kim Taehyung smiled grimly. His ground forces had been training with captured alien weapons and vehicles, learning to fight in environments that no human had ever seen. "What are our rules of engagement, sir?" "Simple," Park replied. "If it supports the Council's war effort, destroy it. If it threatens human lives, eliminate it. If it stands between us and victory, remove it from existence." The human offensive began with simultaneous attacks on 7 Council worlds. Each strike was carefully planned to maximize psychological impact while demonstrating Earth's growing technological capabilities. On Velthar's crystal homeworld, Major Park Hyunwoo's demolition teams infiltrated the planetary defense grid. They didn't try to capture the installations. Instead, they turned the aliens' own defensive weapons against their cities, using the planet's shield generators to create massive energy feedback loops that shattered crystal formations across entire continents. Captain Choi Yuna led the intelligence operation on the Neural Collective's main world. Her teams used captured telepathic dampening technology to create dead zones where the collective consciousness couldn't function. For the first time in their species' history, individual aliens found themselves alone in their own minds, experiencing the terror of isolation that humans considered normal. Engineer Han So-young had been busy during the months of preparation. She had taken the alien FTL technology and made it faster, more efficient, and far more dangerous than its creators had ever intended. Her modified drives could move human ships across the galaxy in days rather than weeks, allowing Earth's forces to strike anywhere without warning. The aliens build their technology to last forever, she explained to Admiral Park. They design everything for safety and reliability. We design ours to work once, perfectly, at exactly the right moment. Her philosophy was demonstrated when human ships began appearing in Council space using FTL drives that burned themselves out after each jump. The aliens couldn't track or predict human movements because the ships were using technology that destroyed itself to achieve impossible performance. Lieutenant Kim Minji had been promoted to head Earth's Alien Research Division. Her teams worked day and night to decode Council technology, communication protocols, and military secrets. But her most important discovery came from studying captured alien soldiers. "Admiral, I found something interesting," she reported during the morning briefing. "The Council species have been at peace for so long that they've lost most of their survival instincts. They literally cannot comprehend the idea of a species that fights to complete extinction." "How do we use that?" Park asked. "We make them understand that this isn't a war over territory or resources," Minji replied. "This is a war over whether humanity has the right to exist. Once they realize we'll never stop fighting, never surrender, and never forgive, they'll start making mistakes." The psychological warfare campaign began immediately. Human forces didn't just attack military targets. They attacked the Council's sense of security, their belief in their own superiority, and their confidence in their ability to control the galaxy. Sergeant Lim Jiwan led boarding actions that captured alien ships without destroying them. Her teams would eliminate the crew, take control of the vessel, and then use it to attack other Council forces. The aliens began to fear their own ships, never knowing if that approaching vessel was friend or foe. Commander Oh Seung-jae specialized in what human forces called terror strikes. His ships would appear above Council worlds, broadcast recordings of previous human victories, and then disappear before local defenses could respond. The message was always the same: Earth can reach you anywhere. But the operation that broke the Council's confidence was the attack on the Void Hunter homeworld. High Admiral Kexmore's species had ruled through military might for millions of years. Their world was a fortress, protected by orbital defense platforms that could destroy entire fleets. It was considered the most heavily defended planet in the galaxy. Captain Lee Dong-yun didn't try to attack the defenses directly. Instead, his strike teams infiltrated the planet's surface using captured alien shuttles. They moved through the underground tunnel systems that the Void Hunters used for transportation, carrying weapons that Dr. Kim Minji had designed specifically for this mission. The weapons were simple by human standards, enhanced versions of the mining charges that human workers used to break apart asteroids. But when deployed in the right places, they could crack the tectonic plates of an entire planet. Dong-hyun's teams placed their charges at carefully calculated points deep beneath the Void Hunter cities. The explosions were timed to create a chain reaction that would trigger massive earthquakes across the entire planet. When the charges detonated, the Void Hunter homeworld shook apart from the inside. Continents cracked, oceans boiled. The orbital defense platforms built to withstand attacks from space were helpless against a planet that was literally tearing itself apart. High Admiral Kexmore escaped in one of the last shuttles to leave the dying world. As he watched his homeworld break apart behind him, he realized that humans didn't just fight wars. They committed genocide with the casual efficiency of a species that had been doing it to each other for thousands of years. The message that Earth sent to the Council after the Void Hunter homeworld died was brief and to the point. "This is what happens when you threaten our families. We gave you a chance to leave us alone. You chose to escalate. We will continue to escalate until you no longer exist or until you surrender completely. The choice is yours, but choose quickly. Our patience is running out." In council chambers across the galaxy, alien leaders stared at the tactical reports and tried to understand what they were facing. The Galactic Council's greatest minds gathered in the deepest vaults of their capital station, surrounded by security measures that could stop entire fleets. These were beings who had ruled the galaxy for millions of years, who had seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations. But now they huddled together like frightened children, sharing intelligence reports that grew worse with each passing day. Supreme Chancellor Morden, ancient beyond measure, reviewed the latest battle reports with growing disbelief. His species had evolved when the galaxy was young, and in all his vast lifetime, he had never encountered anything like humanity. "Show me the Veltharian situation again," he commanded, though he already knew the details by heart. The holographic display materialized above the conference table, showing what remained of the crystalline hegemony's homeworld. Where once a civilization of living crystal had thrived for 10,000 years, now there was only dead rock and poisoned atmosphere. Ambassador Velthar's surviving fragments lay in a specialized containment unit nearby, the once proud diplomat reduced to barely conscious shards. He had been on his homeworld when the humans arrived, and what he had witnessed there had shattered him both physically and mentally. "Tell us again what happened," Chancellor Morden requested gently. Velthar's fractured voice came through the speakers like breaking glass. "They didn't come to conquer," he whispered. "They came to end us." General Kim Tae-hyung led the assault. His soldiers wore armor that protected them from our energy weapons. They moved through our cities like a plague, destroying everything they touched. The battle recordings played on the screen, showing human soldiers advancing through crystalline cities with mechanical precision. But it wasn't the military action that had broken the Council's understanding of warfare. It was what came after. Dr. Nam Heun had arrived on the Veltharian homeworld with equipment that no civilized species would ever develop. She was Earth's leading expert in biological warfare, a scientist who had spent decades studying how to destroy alien life forms completely and permanently. "The humans released engineered viruses into our atmosphere," Velthar continued, "not to kill us quickly but to corrupt our crystal matrix slowly. We watched our children crumble to dust. We saw our greatest artworks dissolve into worthless minerals. They didn't just attack our military, they attacked our ability to exist as a species." Commander Oh Seung-jae had coordinated the orbital bombardment that followed the biological attack, but instead of using traditional energy weapons, his ships had dropped what humans called void bombs, experimental devices that created temporary black holes in the planet's crust. The Veltharian civilization, which had survived supernovas and galactic wars, died in 3 months. Not conquered, not defeated, but completely erased from existence. High Admiral Kexmore, now commanding what remained of the Council's military forces from a hidden base in the Outer Rim, studied the tactical data with professional horror. "They've changed the fundamental nature of warfare," he reported to the emergency session. "Every rule we follow, they break. Every assumption we make, they prove wrong." The evidence was overwhelming. Human forces had attacked 47 Council installations in the past month alone. They had eliminated 6 entire species and driven 12 others to the edge of extinction. Most terrifying of all, they were getting better at it. Captain Young Sumin had taken human biowarfare to levels that violated every galactic treaty. Her teams had developed targeted viruses that attacked specific alien genetic markers, weapons, that could kill one species while leaving others completely unharmed. She had turned biology itself into a precision instrument of death. "The humans are learning from each attack," Admiral Kexmore continued. "They study our biology, our psychology, our technology. Then they develop specific weapons designed to kill us in the most efficient way possible." Major Kang Junho's psychological warfare operations had broken the morale of entire alien civilizations without firing a shot. His broadcast showed human history to alien populations, endless cycles of war, genocide, and survival that had forged humanity into the ultimate predators. The aliens watched recordings of human conflicts and realized with growing terror that these creatures had been practicing total warfare against their own species for millennia. Every tactic the humans used against the Council, they had first perfected against each other. Captain Kim Woo-jin had become the face of human brutality in Council space. His ship, a modified alien dreadnought painted black and red, appeared above Council worlds like a harbinger of extinction. He didn't negotiate, didn't demand surrender, didn't offer terms. He simply arrived and began the systematic destruction of everything that could support military resistance. Received another surrender offer from the Spiral Confederation, reported his communications officer. Standard response, Wu Jin replied without looking up from his tactical displays. Complete withdrawal from Council space, full technology transfer, and 50 years of tribute payments. If they refuse, add their homeworld to the target list. The humans had learned something that no other species in the galaxy understood. War was not politics by other means. War was evolution in action, and only the strongest survived. Fleet Admiral Song Daeho commanded the largest human fleet ever assembled, nearly 100 ships equipped with the best technology from a dozen conquered alien civilizations. His target was the Neural Collective's primary world, where billions of telepathic beings shared a single consciousness. The attack began with something the aliens had never experienced: complete communication blackout. Captain Choi Yuna's intelligence teams had developed technology that blocked telepathic communication across an entire star system, forcing the collective to experience individual consciousness for the first time in their species' history. "They're screaming," reported the human ship's xenobiologist as they monitored alien communications. "The sudden isolation from their collective mind is driving them insane." Song nodded grimly. "Good. Fear makes enemies easier to defeat." But the Neural Collective's suffering was just beginning. Dr. Lee Yunbi had designed a new form of warfare, specifically for telepathic species: psychological viruses that spread through mental contact, carrying human memories of war, violence, and individual survival instinct. The collective consciousness that had existed for millions of years began to fragment and collapse as it was infected with human thoughts and emotions. The aliens experienced war not as an abstract concept, but as humans did: personal, brutal, and absolutely necessary for survival. Within weeks, the Neural Collective had dissolved into billions of individual aliens, each one fighting for resources and territory with the savage desperation that humans considered normal. Their perfect society became a nightmare of competition and conflict. Engineer Han So-young had spent months studying the quantum mechanics behind Council technology. Her breakthrough came when she realized that alien FTL drives could be modified to do more than just move ships through space. They could move pieces of space itself. "We can use their own hyperspace technology as a weapon," she explained to Admiral Park. "If we destabilize the quantum fields around their major worlds, we can make entire star systems unreachable. They'll be cut off from the galaxy, isolated and helpless." The first test of the new weapon system came during the attack on the Council's secondary capital. Commander Oh Sung-jae's ships appeared above the planet and activated Han's modified FTL drives, creating a quantum storm that severed the star system from the rest of the galaxy. The aliens on the isolated world found themselves trapped in normal space, unable to call for help or escape. Human forces had months to systematically dismantle their civilization without any outside interference. Major Park Hyun-woo had become Earth's expert in what human military doctrine called infrastructure warfare. His specialty was finding the weak points in alien civilizations and destroying them with surgical precision. "Every species has something they can't live without," he explained to his demolition teams. For the Crystal Hegemon, it was their harmonic resonance fields. For the Void Hunters, it was their breeding facilities. Find what they need to survive and you find how to kill them all. His teams had developed weapons that could poison alien atmospheres, contaminate their food supplies, and destroy the environmental conditions that alien species needed to survive. They turned entire worlds into graveyards without dropping a single nuclear weapon. The Council's attempts to negotiate were met with silence. Admiral Park had made humanity's position clear. There would be no peace treaty, no prisoner exchanges, no diplomatic solution. The Council had chosen to threaten Earth, and now they would face the consequences of that choice. Sergeant Lim Ji-won led the boarding parties that captured Council command ships. Her soldiers moved through alien vessels like ghosts, using stealth, technology reverse-engineered from captured equipment. They didn't try to take prisoners or gather intelligence. They simply killed everyone they found and took control of the ship. "The aliens keep trying to surrender," she reported to Captain Dong-yun after clearing another Council cruiser. "They don't understand that we're not interested in their surrender." "Make sure they understand," Dong-yun replied. This isn't about winning a war. This is about making sure they never threaten us again. The Great Council chamber had never been so quiet. For the first time in galactic history, the representatives of 1,000 worlds sat in complete silence, staring at the tactical displays that showed human ships positioned above every major Council world simultaneously. Supreme Chancellor Morden looked older than his 50,000 years as he studied the impossible data. In less than 1 year, a species that the Council had dismissed as primitive savages had brought the greatest civilization in galactic history to its knees. "How many ships do they have?" he asked weakly. High Admiral Kexmore, his proud bearing completely broken, consulted his remaining intelligence reports. "We estimate approximately 2,000 vessels, sir, all equipped with hybrid technology that combines their engineering with our captured systems. They appear out of nowhere, strike without warning, and disappear before we can respond." 2,000 ships, Morden repeated slowly, from a single world that we believed had barely achieved spaceflight. The truth was even worse than they knew. On Earth, Admiral Park Jiho stood in the expanded command center that now coordinated military operations across half the galaxy. Around him, hundreds of officers managed the logistics of humanity's first interstellar empire. The room hummed with activity as reports came in from dozens of active battlefields. "Admiral," Lieutenant Kim Minji reported, "the Council has requested a formal ceasefire negotiation. They're offering to discuss terms." Park smiled without warmth. "Tell them to send their representatives to Earth. We'll discuss terms here, on our world, under our conditions." Dr. Kim Minji had become more than just a translator. Her months of studying alien psychology had turned her into humanity's foremost expert on how to break alien resistance without wasting ammunition. "Sir, my analysis suggests they're ready for complete surrender. The destruction of 19 major civilizations has convinced them that continued resistance means extinction." General Kim Tae-hyung entered the command center, still wearing battle armor stained with alien blood. His ground forces had just finished pacifying the last Council military base in the Orion Arm, a process that had taken 6 hours and left no survivors. "All organized resistance in this sector has been eliminated," he reported. "The remaining alien populations have been relocated to designated worlds under human supervision. They're calling us their protectors now." Captain Lee Donghyun appeared on the main communication screen, transmitting from his flagship in the Rigel system. Behind him, construction crews were dismantling alien shipyards and loading the components onto human transport vessels. "Admiral, we've secured the primary manufacturing facilities," he reported. "Dr. Han So-young estimates we can triple our shipbuilding capacity using their equipment. We'll have 5,000 ships operational within the year." 5,000 ships. The number sent a chill through every alien intelligence network still functioning in Council space. The humans had been fighting with what they considered a small defense force, and they were already unstoppable. A fleet of 5,000 human warships could conquer the entire galaxy. The Council delegation arrived at Earth 3 days later, traveling in the last functional diplomatic vessel in their fleet. The ship was escorted by a squadron of human fighters piloted by Colonel Yu Sunho's best pilots, a reminder that Earth now controlled access to its own system completely. Captain Kim Woo-jin met the alien delegation at Earth's orbital station, a massive structure built using technology captured from a dozen different species. He was dressed in the formal uniform of Earth Defense Command, but his weapon belt and the scars on his face made it clear that diplomacy was not his primary skill. "Welcome to Earth space," he said, in perfect galactic standard. "Admiral Park is waiting for you on the surface." The aliens were transferred to a shuttle for the journey to Earth's surface, and what they saw during the descent shattered their last hopes of human weakness. The planet was covered in military installations, shipyards, and training facilities. Millions of humans worked day and night to build the war machine that had conquered half the galaxy in less than a year. But the real shock came when they met Admiral Park himself. The human commander was smaller than most aliens expected, gray-haired and quiet-spoken. He looked like the kind of being who might run a small business or teach children. But his eyes held the cold calculation of a predator that had never lost a hunt. "Please sit," Park said politely, gesturing to chairs that had been specially constructed for alien physiology. "I understand you have something to discuss with us." Chancellor Mordun, his ancient form trembling with exhaustion, spoke for the delegation. "Admiral Park, we come to request an end to hostilities. The Council is prepared to offer significant concessions in exchange for peace." Park nodded thoughtfully. "What kind of concessions?" "Complete withdrawal from the Sol system. Recognition of Earth as an independent world. Trade agreements that would benefit both our civilizations." "Interesting," Park replied, "but not sufficient." The alien delegation exchanged confused glances. They had expected the primitive humans to be grateful for any offer of peace. Dr. Kim Minji stepped forward, carrying a datapad that contained Earth's terms. She had spent weeks crafting the document, using her understanding of